Pray with me, please. God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts bring peace and justice to your world in the way of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I know we have a lot of folks here today who have not met me or who have not been to this church, but I have to clear a few things up. First of all, we use a lot of traditional Christian language that scares some people who have been battered and abused by religion. And I know that I am not the only one in this room who that had happened to. It is quite a miracle that I am even standing before you because of the way that I had been treated as a queer man growing up in a traditional church. And yet somehow, at least from my testimony, from my point of view, somehow Christ led me through that crucifixion to the other side. And I know I'm also not the only one here who has been crucified, either by the church, by family, by someone. And yet, you are sitting here. You are sitting here. My story is like your story, and your story is like mine. They're not the same. They're not the same, but they are alike. And that's why you're sitting here. You might be here just because you wanted to be here for the wedding, but but even if you are, there is something about Easter that is attractive. There's something about Jesus that's attractive. And I'm not talking about the American Jesus, the like Buddy Christ, you know, if you know what I mean, that, you know, carries a shotgun and, you know, I won't go down that path. But you know what I'm talking about, the Americanized Jesus that justifies all kinds of bad behavior, including deporting folks, including the police brutality, including all kinds of things that are justified because this is white Jesus country. And I know, as I'm saying this, this European-looking Jesus is behind me. But that's also why we use imagery that is more diverse here too. Because it's not all about the first century peasant itinerant rabbi, though his teachings are what I try to live my life by every day and what I help other folks to live their lives by every day. But more so, we celebrate today that Jesus of Nazareth transformed on that day to the universal Christ the Liberator, the one who sneaks into places of oppression to let people free. And when we talk about sin in this space, sin is oppression, sin is lack of love. And so sin is not something that I'm going to sit here and tell you that your relationship is, or your gender identity or expression is, or your lifestyle, which my lifestyle is sitting on the couch with a beer after work. That's my lifestyle. Oh yeah, my dogs and my partner are there too, but you know. Forget lifestyle. I love that Peter says in the book of Acts, I really am learning. Stop there. Wow, we see some evolution in thinking here. He says, I really am learning that God doesn't show partiality to one group of people over another. You don't hear fundamentalists preaching that on Sunday morning. God does not show partiality over one group of people over another. Rather, in every nation, whoever worships God and whoever and who does what's right is acceptable.
Amen.
That's pretty easy. And that's pretty hard. The God of your understanding. That's a difficult thing too. Because there are times when I'm going through a Good Friday kind of day, or kind of week, or kind of month, or kind of year. Sometimes a whole year feels like Good Friday. Amen?
Amen.
Sometimes I'm going through and I forget all of the times that I had been risen before. We so easily forget when you're in the tomb that there's still light outside. It's dark in there. You set up things in the tomb so that you feel comfortable. You got your Netflix in the tomb. So, I don't know about the chill, but you got the Netflix in the tomb. And it starts to feel normal in there. It starts to feel like, okay, I can live my life like this. It'll be all right. At least I'm alive. But then, I don't know about you, but I can start to smell my own stench. And go, maybe I should take a shower. Maybe I should get out of here. And what I love about this gospel story, well, a few things. The women are on their way to the tomb. And of course, it's the women who go first. If it wasn't the women who shared the message, then we don't know how Easter would have gone. The women had a very central role here. The women go, and on the way, they're thinking, who will roll the stone away? And lo and behold, when they get there, it's already rolled away. Think about that for your life. What are you worrying about? But what are we going to do when we get there? There's this big thing that we have to move in order to let it out, in order to get in. Love you too. All right, I'll speed it up. What is it that you're afraid of that won't move, that won't budge? Have the faith that when you get there, maybe that stone might already be rolled away. And maybe there'll be a young man waiting for you.
Angel.
Or woman.
Angel.
Or non-binary person. Whatever it is you fancy. Waiting there in the tomb to say, what are you doing here? Why? It's one of the most powerful phrases in the Bible. Why do you seek the living among the dead? Why do you seek the living among the dead? One of my favorite places to go is the cemetery. I am a strange person like that. I love to go and just be away from living people for a little while. Because at least for me, the people don't talk back. But there comes a time where you have to go and be among the living. As a little bit of an introvert, it's hard to be among the living sometimes, because there's all of these expectations of how we're supposed to perform in life, perform in public, to live up to societal expectations, so people don't think this and that and the other thing about you. But there is that calling out into the land of the living. That is what resurrection is about. It wasn't just about Yeshua. It was about the community of the people who called themselves the people of the way. The word koinonia is the called out people. Isn't that queer? The called out people. We're called out of the darkness. And that is what spiritual transformation is about. It's not about dying to yourself that is your real, true self. It is about dying to the ego that tells you all those nasty things about yourself day in and day out. And if you have conquered the ego, then God bless you. Amen. And I'll give you a trophy. Give me your name, I will make you a trophy if you have conquered the ego that gives you negative messages every day. But most of us still struggle with that. And that is what being born again means. It doesn't mean signing a form that says, I believe the Nicene Creed, or I have prayed the sinner's prayer. It's about allowing divine love to transform us in such a way that we have a higher consciousness in this world. Amen. That by that time, you'll look back and go, things don't affect me the way they used to. Things roll off my back now. And it goes from one level to the next. It's not like it's one transformative moment and then your life is going to be easy forever. I won't preach that. That's not truth. But what is truth is that there is a power that was placed in you from the spark of your conception, or even before, that is so powerful you cannot imagine it. Think about all that you have accomplished in your life. All of the lives that you have touched. All of the ways that you have ministered to yourself and to your loved ones. Where does that power come from? That is your spark within. That thing always is lit, is never blown out, and always holds the power of resurrection in those times where you feel like you're suffering on the cross. That is the promise, is that divine love is always faithful to us. Death never has the last word. Victory is Christ's, but victory is ours as well. Pray with me. Thank you, God, for the power of resurrection, for the power of laughter, for the power of liberation from bad theology. We ask that you transform our hearts and our minds that we may no longer fear you or fear things in this world that cause us suffering. Bless our lives. Plant a new seed that in time it will grow into something new and wonderful and beautiful. Amen. Amen.